and welcome back. M80 taking the series 2-0 means we only have one more chance to get a 3-map series this week of Challengers. Up next, it's QOR going up against Thinking Men. And honestly, Uber, this is where things get really, really interesting when we're looking at the placements in the group, because we do have to be keeping in mind promotion and relegation, and these two teams are definitely at risk.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, sure. Thinking Men being at the bottom of this group obviously isn't a great look, but they had to play Oxygen and MXS back to back. Not an easy task, and they had a really competitive, mostly game against YFP, I think, to open up this Challengers season. So they've run the gauntlet. Of all the scariest teams in this group, they're definitely within reach of the opportunity to get themselves off the bottom of this group. Again, like today, we definitely need to see some clean play, but we've actually seen that from them in the last couple of weeks. Like, I am, for a winless team, I'm pretty impressed with these guys.
I'll have to see if it can come out where it really, really counts first. But let's talk about their opponents headed into today first and look at this core roster and these players. Because when we're looking at this team all around, 1-2 record when we're looking at Challengers is definitely a little bit of place for improvement. But Gompers, I think like when we're looking at these players and these teams, like we do get to see the step up and some really, really bright moments coming out from QOR.
Yeah, not only that, but like players that I've seen in the tier 2 scene for a freaking long time. And it's so nice because I remember like, the whole entire unsigned era where like everybody was fighting to get a spot and now they have it, right? T-Dog, Nerve, Ziv, Zelger, Snarly, just being put into the higher limelight and now honestly finding a place to call home. QOR Gaming, they have really, really good performances in my opinion. There have been occasions obviously where the games weren't looking too bright, but kind of like reverting back to that YFP gaming game, they really did have such a good performance that I feel like is going to carry along quite possibly into today.
And I want to do a little bit of a deeper dive on one of these players. Someone that we've talked about before, of course, is Zeldris. And looking back at last week too, I mean, look at the big smile. First off, I just got to say, I love the smile. There's just very... Yep, absolutely love it. But Uber 2, Zeldris has definitely been a bright moment.
Yeah, I think so. Brimming with confidence. I think this is exactly what you want from a young duelist, because we see what happens to teams when their duelist kind of goes off the boil. That's kind of a big part of the reason why M80 struggled to close out that game on Lotus just now against Winthrop. But Zeldris has been really consistent in this sense. 310 ACS is obviously pretty ridiculous. And again, over the ups and downs that QOR have suffered, by the way, they've had 2 losses. They've had 2 series losses. Zeldris is still able to deliver consistently, compelling action at the start of these rounds. And this team gave us a fantastic game in their most recent one against YFP. Zeldris was a big part of that. So, I mean, it's a big deal, I think, for QOR to be able to lean on this guy and put so much trust in him. And he also pays that back with interest in so many of these round opening scenarios.
100%. And we'll have to see if he could be stepping up in today's series, of course, going up against Thinking Men. Because, as you said at the top, Thinking Men, unfortunately, bottom of the group. But when we look back at how this run has gone, and even just in recent history, looking back at last week going up against MXS, who is the top of the group, this actually was a really, really close series, Gompers. And it was one that, honestly, I kind of feel like they had the opportunity to close this out.
I mean, yeah, I think so too. One of the things with Thinking Men, I feel like I'm sorry, I was gonna make a joke, but it didn't come out. It was too funny.
Well, you have to make it now.
I was gonna say one of the things with Thinking Men is they think too much, and I think that's one of the issues that they keep facing. And it's the overthinking, it's the constant need to be better. And honestly, in my opinion, that 10-13 on bind, yeah, they genuinely could have closed it out. And I think it's one of the issues where, and we see this a lot with people, is when they start to reach that threshold, they really do start to let go, just because they feel so pressured to really make that performance to close things out, and then they start to let things go. They start to get cocky. They start to feel excited. And for Thinking Men in general, I mean, that's just the unfortunate line of events that had happened.
There were close to no holes in that split game against MXS. That was an absolute shattering that we saw from Thinking Men. And so maps like this come up every now and then. I mean, we like on bind in general, Thinking Men are quite a strong team. That split game was MXS's pick, by the way, and they got absolutely ruined by this Thinking Men squad. So it's there. You don't actually have to look that far to see where this team is really strong. They just had incredibly tight protocols on split. They were very, very, very good. So I'm looking for similar performances here. If they get to play that map, I'd be afraid for QOR.
Well, let's go find out what maps are going to be playing, Uber. If that's how we're chalking this series up to be, head over to our map picks and bans. There'll be Ascent to be kicking things off here, up by QOR, Sunset, and Bind. So sticking away from a problem map, but a Bind that already Thinking Men were good on. How do you feel now that you've seen the maps, Uber? How are you feeling about the map pool?
I'm a little surprised, actually, that Thinking Men rather want to play Ascent, because in the past, they have been banning this map. They have been trying to sort of avoid going to it. I think after the 3-13 game that they had against Oxygen, they avoided it. They banned it last week for sure. So getting Ascent's a wild card for me. I really don't know what to expect. We saw QOR on this map against YFP, and they looked really solid. It was like not a particularly close Ascent game. Again, like, don't get too excited about either of these teams innovating on compositions on Ascent. We will see, theoretically, a pretty standard approach from them. For me, like, that Sunset map was very, very close between QOR and YFP, and that's the one they played a Sage on, right? So, yeah, again, I'm looking to see how they once again get Sage involved. And, like, the comp outside of that is pretty straightforward. They even have a Sova, and some teams are sort of going away from that. So, Bind, obviously great for Thinking Men. That's a map that, you know, if they can get to that one, then I'm feeling pretty confident about them.
I mean, you're saying if they can get to that one, but out of all the teams this week, Gomps, I feel like this is the series that really could finally go that 3 maps here. It just kind of depends on what form of the team is showing up today, but I think if both are playing at their peak, that this could go the distance.
Yeah, I think there is a big possibility for change. We've been seeing 2-0 across the board. QOR and Thinking Men, honestly, in my opinion, are probably the closest game that I think we might get in all of Challengers. I think both of these teams are very, very skilled. Obviously, Split isn't inside of the map pool, so I definitely think we're going possible like a third map for sure, especially with that first-hand map coming to Ascent. Like you said, Uber, it is kind of weird, and I'm not used to that appearing, especially when you've been banning it for so long. But that kind of brings me to a point where it's like, you know what, maybe they were just really trying to polish their Ascent, and now they feel like they have it down. And to me, that's even scarier for a first map.
Yeah, we'll have to see if that polish is coming out. And again, if it's coming out the right time. This is a pretty big series. This is week 4 here of Challengers. And of course, this isn't the final week, but when we're looking at opponents for next week, well, QOR is going to be going up against Oxygen, whereas Thinking Men go up against TWT, who have been playing great, but definitely a team that they can be taking down. So this could be that everything here, Uber. And I think with that in mind, that's where we really get the fiery matches.
Yeah, I just think it's like audacious to first pick Ascent here when like we don't have a ton of information about it. So that, like, I think Gompers makes a good point. Like, they've probably been polishing this map specifically. They probably felt that there's some holes in their pool in general, because I think their Icebox and Breeze, right, were of concern. I think they were really trying to avoid going to those. You can't really have more than 2 of those maps that you sort of desperately want to avoid, I think. So I'm looking forward to it, because we've seen some really wacky comps on Ascent, especially from SAD, for example. Like, they play like Yoru and Gecko, and you know, like this really heavily util based composition, try and force like the defenders into retakes a lot of the time, and it hasn't always worked. And obviously we've seen teams like Loud over in sort of Champions start to really try and change that map up and inject a little bit of life into it. But again, I'm also pretty happy, like we talked about at the start of the show, to see really clean play with the standard comp on that particular map, because QOR showed us that against YFP. Like, YFP were very shaky. QOR had a lot of confidence. That was the kind of map where I really enjoyed watching Zeldris just punch his way down mid quite often and have that confidence that sort of defines him as that young duelist that, you know, is just sent off to go and create openings wherever he can.
The one thing that I'm pretty certain of this, because you're talking about is, sometimes we get to see some wacky stuff. I think when we look at Ascent with these teams that have more so been playing a little bit more defaulty things in the past, even if they have maybe kind of taken it out of the pool for a little bit, Gomps, to, refine, I can't imagine that refinement going too far away from what was good, because especially if it was something that they were good on before and then kind of had a stumble.
I mean, it's Ascent. I feel like I feel like it really is just kind of a retracting to what is unfortunately basic, because that's what works best for a map like Ascent. And we can try for the silly compositions, we can try for the new things, we can try for, but I think at the end of the day, it really is the Sova and the Killjoy that really just adds that nice sweet touch to a classic map like Ascent. Do I want to sit through that? Yes.
Are you sure? Are you sure about
guys,
that?
come on. I mean, again, I think that's like T-Dog and Zeldris' best roles. They get to take up the Sova and the Jet respectively. Yeah. Like T-Dog is like, you know, which is something we've come to expect from Sovas at the higher levels, is extremely, reliable over on that B site. And you can expect to see like tiles crunches, like even like they mix in like the EG anti-strat. So what EG were doing against some teams like Loud, they'd actually put a player on defense in cubby with an Odin, have one on the B site with an Odin, and then they'd obviously scout it out with a recon and just spray through and really mess them up. So it's not a direct crunch, like no one's running down mid. You don't have a Jet like running with knives or something like that, but it's something that a few teams have picked up to try and, you know, punish those teams that like to group in tiles and slowly scale into mid.
All right, well, for all you Ascent enjoyers out there, I got some good news because our agent select is ready, which means our map is going to be up shortly. I'm going to send you two off. I'll see you later.
Thank you. Yes, here, let's jump in here. Okay, don't get too ahead of yourselves, folks. We obviously have high hopes for a bit of a mix-up here, but the main difference, of course, is going to be like there's no Sova here for this Thinking Men comp, right? They're going with the Cypher and the Viper setup, so definitely a variation here, and they want to lean on the Sky. This is, I mean, there's no scan initiator here, which is quite fascinating.
I am confused. I feel
it's a split comp.
I feel conflicted. Almost. I feel conflicted at my favoritism for this composition. I like the difference, and it makes it even more entertaining. I think my thing is I love the double controller composition, especially starting off on the defense. I feel like that's going to prove to be so great at stopping any possible advancements coming through from Core Gaming. But again, you have the KO coming through from Snarly. You have tons of Sova info to kind of counter any sort of controller type plays or smokes. And then not to mention, of course, those pop flashes that can come through. And just Zeldris on the Jet is absolutely incredible. So when you're looking at this and you're kind of thinking, okay, this could work, but then you also have to think of the way Core Gaming plays and you know, the ideology behind why this classic composition is so good.
And again, when you see the Viper on this map, right, we really often see like on offense, like a wall thrown that blocks off tree and the exit from heaven on the A site. And some teams tend to get pretty uncomfortable about that and actually just like switch into a full retake stance on that site just because they don't want to have to swing through that wall on multiple points. Yeah. And they don't want to sit in on the side, of course, for fear of, you know, like a lot of that util sort of being scattered out and having to deal with the crosshair placement broken by a Jet running in. So this defensively, right, this Viper wall is frustrating because you have to, as attackers, pass through it twice to get in here. And it also makes it really awkward to fight for the A main early around the defending Omen one way. So I don't know how Core are going to go about this, how aggressive they want to get. It also, like, that wall is in the top of mid and you have to pass through it to get down Cat.
You're going to have to put on a pretty good performance, quite honestly, with a wall like that as well. But yeah, already kind of clearing up Cat, and it gives them so much mid control under the circumstance that they want it. So Thinking Men sort of waiting to see what they want to do, or even if the information's going to bait itself.
It's the kind of wall that means the paint really only has to worry about tiles. They're going to clear mid before they probably, you know, try and think about scaling. But there's no reason to do that. There's just no incentive to be pushing out. So eventually Zeldris is going to be moving his way across here. Crucially able to play from in front of the wall, and paint eventually emerges. The flash is good though, and Scrubble Bubble is able to capitalize on the guiding light straight down mid. A great start for Thinking Men.
Yeah, they kept the silence, they kept the patience. Even then, they knew that the decay would have formed with that Viper's wall kind of taking its toll. And a beautiful one at that, honestly. It's going to be pretty hard to get past that, but it seems like working out so well for them. Possibility to get some sort of retake potential for the B side, already heavily contested and well read into by Thinking Men.
Camera move, but those Cypher one-ways have so far shut down Zip's attempts to really get any information about the setup here. Now a Poison Orb. So this is their double controller composition at work. It is going to bleed the clock down so much. We're at the point now where Core have to make the play, and Vic is going to be ready. Snakebite there just to shove the push into Speedway. Have to give up a bit of ground, and that is going to allow them out of B main. The Reform is going to be there. Sidesteps past the shocked up. T-Dog always trusty with a pistol, gets the better of him. Scrubble Bubble though finds his third for the round, and Lear will be there for the cleanup. Great opener.
anything, they just knew what to do. It's a pistol round majority of the time. I mean, the chances of somebody pushing out mid are very, very high. So I think they genuinely just took advantage of the repetition of what a map like Ascent is. Of course, I mean, pretty much working out for the better. I'm interested to see how they're going to continue to really utilize that Viper and that Omen, because I did really like the way that that wall was placed and how much it really did give away to Thinking Men. They got just free info off of that.
Yeah, it's like if you want to send someone down cat, you normally have someone watching top mid at the same time, right? Just so the cat player only has to watch cubby. But the Viper wall cuts that up. Like you obviously isolate that player if they've sort of pushed up the map. You get punished actually for trying to scale too aggressively, and you normally need like a tiles player there to at least help you with some kind of trade scenario. So the wall has the effect of funneling maybe extra players from the attacking side into mid, and then you see like the play off of the sky flash. Like Leah sends that in and Scrabble Bubble gets 2 kills basically straight away. And Core, okay, well, haven't even committed to a site yet. By the time they get there, it's 20 seconds left in the round. So, you know, as defenders, you know exactly what's about to happen. You know they're going to commit.
Yeah.
It's just one Viper wall, right? But the way they played around it made it basically impossible for Core to hide their intent.
Interesting, too, because now B site seems like the place to be, you know, for this controller sentinel type setup. And I'm curious, having the jet down in mid means that there is a possibility for a slight push up to get aggressive, maybe get that early access to information. Yeah, flash definitely getting set up by Lear. Or even then, just information. You got 2 players still surrounding themselves mid, looking for something, maybe a first engagement.
Remember, no scan operators here for Core, so they can't just like 0 point this and see how many players are there. It is a good, like a good snake bite for sort of fast push rather from Vix. But again, like a lot of info here for Thinking Men. They have a good read on this for one way. It's all too easy to play off there for Vix, and that's going to be 3. Spike dropped on the wrong side of the dark cover, and Ziff has very little left to do here.
Okay, they're still trying. I give them that. 4 players. The homie's just walking up. Is any flawless, though? Taken to account, Thinking Men 2-0 already off the rip. And I would say, like, I know it's just been like the pistol rounds, the anti-eco round, but I do genuinely think the setups that we're seeing have so much potential to really carry on. I am curious as to what the heck was going on with that double, like, the double trap setup that we saw coming through from Reform. But you know what? If it works, it works.
Market, right?
Yeah.
I guess it's, if they do get overrun, right, you get that extra insurance. They can't just like post up in market. Maybe it stops like maybe like a move into tiles and a jump spot, rather into logs. Hard to say. Anyway, nice little early aggression here from Paint. Not a great start here for Core, and I wonder if this game is headed the same direction as that Thinking Men MXS matchup on Split.
Shadows traveling.
I mean, a good way to start off the round, getting aggressive, having an understanding, hey, I need a weapon. Even then, if I don't need the weapon, I need something to really start off. We're in a pretty bad, advantage here, especially with not having the correct weapons needed, but Reform finding one just across the site with a stinger alone and actually being able to manage to find more information. They don't even know where the cam is. Are they taking it down? Absolutely they are. Finding something else, maybe even so. The site semi-clear with Zeldris left alone onto it, and free Vandals for the taking if they do close things out, and that's Thinking with a 3-0.
Poison's off.
That's a really good bonus from Thinking Men. They've got to be very pleased about that. Once more, like, Core get funneled in towards that A side here when they've not really been able to apply any pressure up catwalk, right? It's a straight play through A main, and a huge part of this is because Paint just finds that early aggressive playing towards B main. Catches one player. All of a sudden, our Core don't have the ability to canvas the map like they did before.
Yeah, they took everything in. They knew what they needed. Now they have to try for something else. I did like the early aggression that we saw get pushed out earlier before. We're going to see it again, but this time over towards A. So you have a pretty heavy contest. You're not seeing any sort of information as well. And that actually feeds pretty well into the eyes of Thinking Men. They know where they need to go, especially with Paint now semi-rotating over towards mid.
Zeldris was able to get embedded here. So regardless of where the spike ends up going, you are still forced to play from the other side of this Viper wall here, so this has stopped Core for now. With 2 players, they're trying to clear this B main. Again, no incentive for Thinkman to take any undue risks here. Scrubble Bubble with not even a shoulder peek, just sees the player in A main. They've got a double stack set up in tree.
That's actually going to dissipate, which gives some space to try to see what's going on towards B. But I do like the silence. Core just waiting for somebody to walk out Cat, but Thinking Man, they've kept their patience before. It seems like they're going to keep it again, though. Still, Recon Dart looking for information.
This low pace has been good, though. It's drawn Paint away. Now they don't have the double player set up inside tree. This has allowed Zeldris to get through, bringing them with confidence as always. This time it's misguided, but that's what you need to see from your duelist. Still pressure coming up mid now, so market's going to be open. There's a legitimate pinch scenario unfolding here, but that one way is so brutal, and Vix again the one to take advantage of it. Nothing Core could do. Again, with the weaponry, it's tougher to win a round like that, but this Cypher setup's a troll, man.
I'll see it.
What? I feel like that's my only reaction to this game is just the surprise of it. And yeah, Reformed is pretty quirky with what's going on, but I do like the trip. You cannot destroy it unless you actively push util out towards a market, and or you kind of just literally feed yourself into it. So it makes it almost impossible to gain mid control down towards B, which I love. And it's small things like that that really do leave you down to that 4-0 that Thinking Men are at. Now, of course, pop flash out, Paint having the information that there is a majority headed down towards mid.
Paint might have thought about crunching there if not being spotted by the recon. Still, there's a lot of players here incoming. Zelda straight into the smoke. Snarly's going to challenge after the fact here. Hunter's Fury. Snarly going to take advantage here of the clutter visually to pick off Paint. So we're even on numbers here. Spike is though down in the middle part of the map, and Leo has been able to wrap around, pick Nerve off. And now the last two attackers are in the B side. They've got a lot of walking to do to get here to where the action is.
Heal up, squad. Last player standing.
T-Dog knows, yeah. But unfortunately isn't actually able to pick the fight. Only thing left to utilize for Core is some of the util left over from Civ. But then again, is that really going to do too much? You got 43 seconds left and the spike isn't even in hand. So you got to fight for this under the circumstance that you want it. Though economy not looking really good, especially with a wraparound coming through from Vix.
30
Another
seconds
gun round
left.
gone horribly wrong for Core. You're not thinking man kick 3 weapons out of this round. You are in deep trouble already. Again, Core just need to really scrap it together. Like 3 attacking rounds would be quite acceptable here, but they try and go for this sort of B split through market, which is fair enough, but there are 2 players sat there waiting for him.
Honestly, yeah, well-deserved timeout. And it's only going to get scarier from here, right? We got a save round coming through from Core, so that's just a guaranteed win from Thinking, and especially with the operator being brought out by Paint. And tons of mid-control there as well. We've been seeing a lot of mid-control trying to be taken over by Core. Unfortunately, just not the way it works out. It's impossible with Reform's kind of system that they have going on over towards market side, so that you can't really try to migrate down. And then not to mention as well, Paint just watching mid like a hawk, utilizing Lear's abilities. So 6 assists already as well for both of Reformed and Lear. You can see the amount of impact they have in this game.
Yeah, I mean, I just think back a couple of rounds, right, where Vix can see under the cyber cage that Reformed has set up on the exit from market over towards that B side. And
Yeah.
it virtually functions as a one-way from that angle. Like, it's super, super rough. And this is like a couple times that Core have tried the B split, right? Getting that mid control in order to play through market takes a lot. It takes a lot of utility, takes a lot of resources to do that. And then you have 2 players just sort of ratting in that corner. Really hard to break. Here again, Vix just setting up a cheeky little one-way. Yeah, they've got all the tech for this map. My God.
Maybe that's what we need. I'm so used to seeing like the Core composition that this is so new to me, and it's so different, which I genuinely do like. But of course, pop flash out already leading this team to try to take that space up towards A. And that's information, but nobody's kind of leading into it. Paint still watching mid and knowing that, hey, Core likes this control. I'm not going to give it to them no matter what.
Here's T-Dog now just to try and open up the middle part of the map. This is what we said. This is resource intensive. Slowly, you have to scale into mid. Paint able to avoid being spotted there without having to use the tailwind at all means that you can make a more audacious kick out. Takes it, gets away with it. Oh my goodness, there it is. Scrabble Bubble just been waiting in this same spot the last couple of rounds, and this low buy for Core is going to struggle to put a scratch on Thinking Men here. 6 rounds. I'm feeling it.
Six and 0.
Cover going out.
A struggle from Core. If anything, I mean, Core as well, they haven't really been too aggressive. They're not applying pressure where Thinking Men need pressure. They're kind of just letting the util speak for itself, and then they back themselves off and allow it to happen, the bullying. And there really is nothing that they're doing to try to counteract
30 seconds left.
What Thinking Men are throwing at them, but maybe Nerf here can try to pull for something. 26 seconds left, Spike not in hand. Hey, I just need one. Realistically is the thought process here, so definitely going to try to look for it. Might be able to find it. Nope. Scrubblebub takes it away, and it's up to Ziff now.
You see the spike there on Cap. Pain and Reform both have this one covered, so we're gonna briskly move on from that round. And others any flawless knocked up here by Thinking Men. And again, this is it has a similar feel to what we saw them do to MXS on Split. Again, just very disciplined, really like holding formation. Look at how late in the round we are, and we're basically where most of these players started. We've got those two set up in mid. No one is pushed off into Cat. No one's pushed into A main. There's no early aggressive pops. This team behind the double controller setup doesn't feel like they're in a hurry to try and start fights.
If anything, what they need to do is isolate fights. They have been met with like the repetitiveness of Thinking Men occasionally pushing out towards B or A main. They just haven't punished it yet, and I don't even know they're aware that it happens on occasion. Even though they have had Zeldris, my apologies, Paint kind of pop out and maybe take that first engagement. They need to start to find a way to isolate these fights, and it seems like here even then they're just being pressured back once again by the util, by the Vipers, not even trying to test the limits here. Only thing to do now is possibly push that drone out.
A drone in a tree at the very least captures the trip, so it serves its purpose in that sense. But their Viper wall extends all the way over from Boathouse, or rather where the switch is, to sort of cover that entry. So a Viper wall being relevant in 3 different lanes of this map is extremely frustrating for the attackers.
Oh, Paint still watching with the op. Dangerous part about this is, I mean, are they willing or able to get away under the circumstances needed, but a pop flash out, and now they know that the A site's going to be the push.
Pain pushed up the angle instantly because they wouldn't have the tailwind available to get out after taking this first shot. Double hop, skip, and jump, and that's good enough here. Zeldris, though, already makes his way up through window, now into heaven. Nice burst of speed there from Core. They really dot their I's and cross their T's for much of this round. They slowly get over towards Cat. There's so much util in their way.
Yeah.
But they burst through. You need that pace here to defeat a lot of this controller util. And Vix won't be able to do anything from that position. What a way to come back with a flawless round of Core's own.
I think that's it. Yeah, that was definitely what was needed, especially after 6 rounds in a row of continuous loss. Economy's still so rich for Thinking Men regardless, so it's not too much of a loss other than the fact that, okay, well, Core, they've changed up the strategies. What can we learn from that? And they're kind of sticking down back to the basics, this time actually with a slight retake wall to give them some sort of space and satisfaction, especially when it comes down to having to get that retake up in mid. So it's interesting. Will it work is the question.
But at least they know, like, okay, we can overwhelm this. Like, if we just have some confidence and trust each other, we can swarm these sites and defeat like a lot of this defensive setup. Again, most of these smokes won't hurt you. You can just get past them as a unit and still trade off each other. Lockdown here, and Vix is holding the angle just a little longer. Eventually pulling out now as we have the classic Omen TP in towards Boathouse. This is going to get busy for Scrabble Bubble. Paranoia does connect there. Thinks about a TP across the side, but it's about to get hot and heavy. The Molly would have claimed him if Zeldris hadn't. And there's that pace once more for Core. They're in on the site now in the post plant with a 2-player advantage.
And there's no way. Absolutely no way. Already Ziv sitting down on the back of site. Core somehow managing to find majority of the players, but it's fixed to find 2. And now 19 health left as well. 7 bullets, not wanting to reload or give away their position. This is dire. They get spotted by this drone, and it might just be over. They don't. They still have time. And as well as the shots fired, maybe then the reload there, and not even a push to come through, but it's Nerf watching the angle like a hawk and giving that 6-2 away.
Scary. I mean, Vix knew that they probably couldn't shoot there in that moment because that'll give their position away, and that box is wall bangable. They only had 5 bullets left, so they'd have to reload after it. So that takes a lot of courage, I guess, just to hope the Aldrin doesn't end up spotting you out. But here, once again, right, fast hit of the site. This is what QOR now realize they have to do, right? Play with a bit of pace.
Here. Yes, this should do.
They're playing with the pacing a little bit. I did like that. It was it was a lot faster than what we have been seeing before, especially out of 4. But again, Viper's wall comes up, Decay there, and actually not catching anybody out. But it's interesting, so much util just deflected out into the A site, and now absolutely nothing to keep that hole down. But of course, it leads them back over towards mid for the possibility of taking something along with them. Yeah, paint goes down, and that is not looking good.
You talked about how much util was used there at A main just now, right?
Yeah.
That is because Thinkermen are very aware of how fast QOR can play. So they have to spend extra just to stop them from getting overwhelmed right off the rip. Doesn't always feel like a worthwhile trade for them, but it keeps them a little more sound going into the mid round here.
And the more time they spend, the more time it gives away to a possible flank as well. I mean, they get information alone off of the util. Reformed has set down towards B. Noise already being made, and it's Nerve to try to create a distraction. Paranoia not hitting the correct position, though regardless, down towards box, is able to find it.
Interesting scaling in a mid there by Thinkermen.
Blocking sight.
Little adaptation. They left the B side completely open, though, and now we're seeing the consequences of that.
30 seconds
QOR
left.
strutting right on in like it was an Airbnb they already booked. We'll have to plant down for T-Dog, and of course, we're kind of pinned in mid if you're Reformed here because Nova's still an issue. Took like no damage from those last 2 engagements. Hasn't even bothered to reload. He's chilling so much now. I was thinking about hoping just to save it here.
Oh no, Vix doesn't even
Enemy
know.
remaining.
Actually able to catch them out just in time for Nerve. A 1v1 that works out in favor of QOR, but even then, I mean, they've been playing ridiculously well. After that 6th round that Thinkermen kind of brought up now, just looking to find one of their own. They hear the noise. I mean, could pretty much walk away with one, but it seems like not. We're going to have a beautiful Zenny Flawless come through from QOR again.
How many of those have we had this game? At least 3 of them over the last 9 rounds. But I mean, QOR now, they've kind of got their minimum threshold of rounds they can feel confident about. That walk there from Paint, yeah. He must have been tipped off to something that gave him a feeling of security about turning his back on mid there. Unfortunate timing happens. Not much you can do about it now is Thinkermen big buyback in here with the Odin of Lear.
I'm wondering how this is going to work out without a Sova. I think you hear noise set down on B. Regardless, you can still manage to get some of that intel. Maybe even play for wallbang here, but yeah, I mean, at least making noise so they know that the Odin is there. It's up to Paint to try to find something mid, though.
Formed here has the confidence to push up a little more, of course, to be able to play off. Or at least allow Lear to play off his contact. There's also a camera to play off, so multiple layers of redundancy there.
Yeah.
Not deployed. There.
Placing swarm grenade.
That is to tree, I think. No, okay, market once more. It's cleared out. No one's in market. Okay, are they playing forward or off the side entirely? That's the question now that QOR are trying to figure out.
Cover going out.
Yeah, mid is going to be quite difficult. Doesn't seem like that's the play here. Payne actually finding a lot of information to give away, but nobody's rotating just yet. Even despite the 38-second mark, it's going to be a pretty slow rotation to bring about in the retake. Possibly even more difficult if Scrubble look up above. Can't seem to find one, but they do. Up top comes Paint, and now finding the off angle. Still somehow reloading. And a 3K just for this moment. Thinkermen, they find the perfect advantage.
They've done enough. Nicely done there from Paint. Looked a bit awkward at moments. Being able to find 3, of course, off those knife resets is big, and Lear can just spray things down. Thinkermen, crucially,
Yeah.
taking around here just as their economy starts to teeter once more. And there we can probably see that jet play run back a bit. This angle is unexpected, so Paint coming in from the top rope gives them a huge edge here.
Great inventions.
Absolutely beautiful. paint, the way they handled that situation was great. Honestly, it was a lucky shot too, coming through from Scrubble down in that choke point, but so much util just blockading the view of Core. Of course, then again, you've got some guy just hovering above you shooting bullets at your skin, and it just makes it even harder, which is difficult. But a timeout coming through from Thinking Men, actually, which is no surprise to me. Honestly, they won that last round, definitely wanting to reconvene and discuss how they can continue that stride, because any more than that and Core could possibly run away with a 7-5.
It could also be like pretty weird economy for them here. They might be trying to figure out just how to buy around into this round. I think a couple players had about 2K, so that was fine, but they had just brought back in, and they did so by buying an Odin. So you could see they were making a big investment in that round in general. And again, could have some key ultimates come up, right? I don't even know if they've really formed a huge part of the discussion, but the Blade Storm there for Paint was a pretty big difference maker. No, it just seems like the former. See, Paint, of course, is, for just the Vandal here. Hey, money's not an option. They've got everything they need, so just trying to take a breather.
Yeah, but this is the lineup ready to be pushed forward, especially down in mid. So they're going to be caught out here. Nice and easy. Actually, no. They read into this nicely, but unfortunately, Zeldris still gets caught out, especially as they're on their way out of mid. So they know their Zeldris might be an issue.
All right, just in case someone was posted up here in market. So now clear the way somewhat for Zeldris and T-Dog, who again like to play off each other in this part of the map, to come forward. TP away from A main there by Nerve, so doesn't really want to challenge and probably can't keep Scrubble Bubble any more interested in that part of the map for now.
No, but this is huge off Lear. All they need is an inkling of information. They decide just based off intuition alone to try to get those shots through, but it seems like it doesn't work out. Regardless, though, Snarly looking to try to suppress these players. Got Vix attempting to get a snake bite out. Doesn't work.
Vix will back away. Switch house, not the safest place to be. Not with the paranoia, but they don't check the corner. There's a couple easy ones for Vix. Definitely able to trade.
30 seconds
A real
left.
player advantage now, but Zeldris has got in. Cat amongst the pigeons. Holds on the trigger until it's time to bring Reform to his knees. Two players over there at stairs, and Ziff will be able to get there. And that spike, of course, is out on Speedway still. Lear is ready to hold down M1 for the boys. You had better believe it. Scrubble Bubba's being very careful about this angle. This is going to split the two of them up here. Oh, the timing is so good, though. Paranoia will interrupt Lear. Odin
Spike down B.
falls from his lifeless hands. Now it's going to be Scrubble Bubble against a 51 HP opponent to try and get the job done. He's already wrapped around. Great moving from Scrubble Bub. Gets in position on Speedway. There's a shot in the back to end the round.
Yeah, I think man taking a step up. A step needed to honestly take that 8-3, but there's even more coming through from there as well. 9-3, definitely the way that they want to end things off. You can see them fighting for the Viper's Pit available as well. And it's huge. Honestly, in my opinion, when you're looking at the possibility for a team like Core, I do think that Lockdown's going to do a pretty good job at countering this Viper's Pit. We know these ultimates are coming through. This is the last round. So it's either you utilize it now or you kind of miss that opportunity to bring this round down to that 8-4, especially for Core.
I want to see how they try and fight for the control of the lockdown position, right? Okay, pretty aggressive early. Viper's Pit straight away in mate. Also, you can lock down from a fairly comfortable spot, but it's wall bangable for the defenders. We get it. You guys are you guys are out there. Lear obviously counting on that fact now as once again the Odin is brought up. And where else the Core go from here? Try and get some mid control. That's been left largely uncontested by Thinking Men here.
Mm-hmm.
Not about it.
Swarm grenade out.
Yeah, they could do something about this, though. I mean, T-Dog still does have recon bolt to throw. You know, how accurate is that going to be?
That's a good way to throw this to reveal the Viper. I'm not even sure. It's an awkward spot for the pit.
It's luck. It's really luck.
It's one.
Spike down B.
Love that discipline from Vix. Doesn't overextend. Backs up and let Lear go to work. Nerve here's just trying to circumvent this entire Viper Spit situation. Lear accosts him. Had the shorty out, I think. Flash is good.
30 seconds left.
A shorty shot. Playing with his food, but Nerve, apparently that food bites back. 5 HP, though, is not enough to get much done. And now, how do you get value out of this lockdown? It's an awkward position. Only 2 players left for Core to play off of. And Paint's likely to get some contact here. Oh, that tripwire reveals the position of the bomb carrier. And it's just as if we've seen incredible clutches from this guy, but today apparently not that day. And the 9-3 scoreline that you prophesied comes up.
Switching sides.
This is like, and it's so surprising too, because when you look at the history of Thinking Men, it's not something that you would be heavily pleased to kind of have in your history. They had been having such a hard time trying to win games, especially like just getting knocked down time and time again by YFP, Oxygen, Moist, X Shopify. It's this instance where you really do see the quality of work Thinking Men have, because they just got overturned by so many losses that it really just feel like we don't have like, or I wouldn't say have a lot of respect for them, but in that sort of perspective, it is hard to have that sort of just respect to call them those big dogs, right? When it comes down to the games. But I definitely
it just
see,
wasn't enough evidence, right?
Yeah.
Like we saw good performances against good teams. But then we also saw them really struggle on some maps against those exact same opponents, right? Like it was an amazing split performance and then a horrendous breeze one back to back from Thinking Men. It's pretty hard to put a finger on just where they should be in the overall standings after those first 3 games.
on the walkthrough, especially coming through the Trailblazer. They pretty much cleared out mid. Now they're going to try to get that push up, which I really do like, especially coming out of Lear while the distraction happening over towards the A site and a big push commencing.
Yeah. We're all ready for it. So they have the players. They're trying to go, oh, okay, never mind. Don't worry about numbers. It's all about quality over quantity.
Remaining.
Zeldris takes an easy swing there as they were absolutely lit for him. A perfect start here for Core after a difficult first half, but that's the way the cookie crumbles on Ascent sometimes. Lear will be spotted from about 3 different angles at once, and your 17th Zenith Flawless round coming up in only a 13-round game. Do the math.
Just what they needed, in my opinion, to bring themselves back up. I mean, there isn't too much to worry about on the side of Core, especially with that pistol round. Now you guarantee yourself the second round, and if you don't invest too heavily, honestly, I do like the Guardian pick, especially coming through with a possibility for that Marshall to really shine down in that bonus round. But it really is thinking about how you can run away with this round and possibly profit off the next.
Yeah, Zeldris really wants to stake his claim to mid here. Saving down, so the operator is an option in the next round. You don't really want to have to bonus with that Marshall. Here they come. 3 spotted by Snarly here. Where's the backup going to be? Of course, a double stack here. Zip right by him. It's going to force Thinking Men to pull back for a moment, but Snarly almost gets... Hello? Victor's getting his DoorDash. Don't worry about it.
It was all part of the plan. The plan that we just don't know yet, unfortunately. We're still waiting for it to happen, still hiding in the corner, thinking it stayed silent. It's so weird how everyone is just...
Well, you see, a few of them are in the same house.
That is
why.
why.
In the same house. So you
That
see
is
one
why.
guy go, see 2 other people start moving. Start to wonder exactly what's going on there. Not a great time if connectivity issues are to be blamed for that to come up.
No, they all had
Especially
DoorDash orders, actually.
Yes, it was actually a DoorDash order for all of them that was so heavy that they
all
couldn't
had to
just send one person to get it. And then they asked for a pause, and the other guys were like, no, we're hungry and we're jealous that you have DoorDash, so we're not going to do that. We're going to force you to focus on this game of Valorant, this Challengers match. So we are obviously just taking a sidebar here now as we look to get the technical issues on the side of Thinking Men sorted out, and they're going to be rolling the round back, we're told.
Yeah.
Just to obviously account for some unexpected connectivity scenarios.
I will say, for Thinking Men to be putting on as well as a performance as they are now, honestly, it is nice to see, especially with like the composition that you wouldn't be so used to viewing. And it's so weird. The double controller composition definitely is not a surprise to me. I've seen this on Ascent kind of like, I wouldn't say back in the day. I saw it a couple times last year. It's not something that people typically run. But I do think it serves them well for the playstyle. Unfortunately, though, obviously that pistol round being lost out definitely was not the way to go, with Core taking that one. And I just think it's going to be a lot harder, especially on the attack, since it does feel kind of defense-sided to be playing a map like Ascent.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And, you know, again, with like a double controller comp, you can do so much to like stall, drag the game out, force the attackers to basically commit to a site that they don't have any information about. But here it's obviously a different story. You can obviously make use of that util, but you really want to be able to set up your duelist, for example. And with double controller, that can be a little bit harder to do, right? You only have the sky, if I'm not mistaken. So then you are walking into the entire conundrum of being pretty flashlight for a flash initiator, right? Only really having sort of that one use of guiding light, which means that you can't use it to get info, and you don't have a scan operator. Like you don't have a Sova, for example. So all of a sudden, now your ability to get information, even though you have good smoke util, is great. You also like are in a position where it can be harder to set your duelist up to have these explosive moments like we've seen from Zeldris already.
I mean, I feel like if it were me too, like there really isn't much to change, especially on this side, since we kind of haven't gone through the motions of really seeing what both of these teams are capable of when the side swap happened. But I mean, kind of unfortunate to already be put in a position where you're not in the lead, especially for Core, now having to try to pick things back up. But I feel like they'll be fine. I think we will get to see a lot more coming through from that Sova Odin that I love to see so much on a map like Ascent. It is very fun. It is something that we see all the time, but at the same time, it never gets old. Just that surprise value that it adds. So I am looking forward to seeing T-Dog kind of step a little bit more into that role of being able to provide for the team before the round start, right? Just having the information early on with the drone, with the recon dart, and kind of understanding what's going on. I think that's one thing that constantly was lacking on the side of Thinking Man. They had to push out and isolate fights to find that information. Unfortunately, not really the case for Core. Instead, all they really need to do is just be smart and make sure they can keep themselves pretty intact.
Yeah, like obviously with how defense-sided Ascent can be, right? A 9-3 is like pretty acceptable for Core, I think. And you can see straight away they know they need to stack these rounds together. And with a double controller setup, it's harder to push operator players off those angles. So Zeldris, that's why we sort of said, oh, he's actually just going for a Marshal this round while the rest of his team buys down. As soon as he gets an operator in his hand, it's going to be very, very hard to force him. Like, are you going to spend your guiding light charge to force the mid jet off that angle at the start of the round and then have nothing to get into a sight? Like, that just seems bonkers to me. Mm-hmm. So I like that Zeldris smells an opportunity here to start to take the game over.
Starting again, a different way, or maybe the same way that they have before. Instead, this time, yeah, slight rotation coming back over towards mid. And a possibility to try to distract. So they're pushing some of that util down in A to keep these players there, yeah.
They got absolutely hammered by that fragment grenade. Leah quite low and no flash to hand here. So, you know, again, this is an eco round, so don't expect too much utility-wise here. T-Dog, a little early on the timing here. Obviously predicting a bounce to the other extremity after things go awry at A for Thinking Men. I won't get any information off that recon. Good luck trying to take mid here. Of course, you've got Snarly, who doesn't have the best weapon for that range. And that's the attacking Viper that comes up there. Cuts off Cat. Tries to deny information from mid, and you can't see tiles either. So it's fertile ground to try and make a push here over towards B. T-Dog's going to be there. The Spectre's going to work. Zeldris trying to take a shot, tailwinding out. This is now getting a little uglier. It's just Leah, and Zeldris finishes it off with a bit of flair.
Okay, no scopes across the board. Let's go. Great way to end things off. Now Thinking Men, yeah, definitely not getting the good end of the stick when it comes down to that pistol round. But, you know, they're able to invest into the next round to bring themselves some sort of advantage, which at the end of the day is definitely the way that things are supposed to go, you know, when you do lose that first-hand pistol round. So this is the arc of redemption. We're seeing the Viper's wall come out, giving them some space to push up towards B, and then even then kind of dividing the site down to that 5%. So they can try to gain some of that ground, though. Early push coming through, and shock darts now to try to find some of that damage.
Instant flash on Zeldris. That's your guiding light. Did force him off the angle, in fairness. Trailblazer was also going to be an issue. Zeldris cannot post up in front of that. Mm-hmm. So this allows Paint to get some step here towards the opening of B main. T-Dog now gets to confirm.
One down.
Zeldris, though, is well set up to take contact, and that's what Thinkermen are going to be doing without flash density.
Yeah, wall comes back up, but I mean, what use does it do? The only thing it really does to is try to preoccupy the thought that, hey, maybe somebody is still here, but then against Gnarly gathering information, Scrubblebub is there. Of course, a possibility for a rotation, and now it has to come. They've lost out on their initiator, and now they need the plan B.
Just great intuition there from Scrubblebubble, knowing he can make a spray that his opponent's likely to cross the tree door there. Now, how do you clear Nerve out of this position? Your Viper's up mid. You don't have a molly to get him out of here. At least you have to confirm. Like, you know Nerve is there, but now Nerve is going to imply crossing.
Wow.
Reform doesn't know if he's back in A or still in wine.
30 seconds left.
Oh, and they just ping that, but still actually making noise, giving away the location that they honestly did a really good job at faking out. Reformed as well. A slow push coming through from flanks of the attacker side, now finding some sort of advancement there, but it's QOR not really suffering the consequences. Instead, they're trying to fight
10
back.
seconds
now
left.
You got that 3v3 situation with 10 seconds left. Yeah, and there, I mean, possibility for a plant definitely there. Yeah, it is going to happen.
All right, footsteps heard here as Ziv steps up. So now you have a player advantage into this post-plant scenario, and Seekers also would have given you early warning of Zeldris if he wasn't too quick to the fight. Sprawl Scrubblebub down. Don't even worry about Blade Storm. That's not going to be a factor here. And Nerve is very low, so no surprise to see them play together here. One inside Switch House. There's Vix backing up now to CT. We'll want to watch this cross. Zeldris and Nerve, though, they cut this up so beautifully. And that's Zeldris with another 4. Light work for the boy.
And I could see the vision behind it. It was a cross hold that Thinking Men were trying to do, but the unfortunate part about that was I don't think they were just expecting both of them to be watching the angles that they were, which at the end of the day, I genuinely do think it might have been easier to just stick together, get the refrag potential, and then play from there in that 1v1 situation. At the end of the day, they're Thinking Men definitely having no economy to play through within this round. So they give away a possibility for another free one over to QOR, and that just leads them even deeper into that rabbit hole.
A great result here for QOR. Yeah, you've got to be happy about that. That's a very tight round, one which you can't afford to sort of let go, especially if you're trying to mount a pretty lengthy comeback. But now they have all the pieces of the puzzle. They have the Odin play here over towards B. Zeldris, of course, ready to take this raw contact in mid with the operator. You have to spend both forms of Sky Util to force him off this angle.
Yeah, not given Gnarly too much room to work with, but still going to watch the angle, and actually are expecting more. But then they get scared, and then they miss out on the shots. QOR taking one down, the initiator, and now the controller as well. And it's Nerve and Snarly not really able to say too much in regards to what's going on down in A.
Zeldris is just a non-factor here. It's far too far away, and with an operator, he has to try and make something happen from that A main. Payne steps ahead of the door coming down. Again, that's the second time consecutively he's caught. And both have paid off. The first time it was an upgrade of weapon. The second time, his third kill of the round. Reformed is going to be a rat in that position. Zeldris can't expect it to be easy, so he plunges into the breach. Sets up the 3v2. A player in hell is unlikely to show his face to the operator here. So it might be up to Ziv to get something going here from heaven. But they have little information about the setups here. Can only assume Gen. And the off angle for Vix pays dividends. Now Ziv has to go big. We've seen it before. Not this time.
Yeah, honestly, huge thirsty round. Picking up an op, which, I mean, biggest investment you could do. Taking that away, especially to try to, just push into the next round, which I really do like and admire there. So that op, I feel like, is going to have such a big impact, especially playing into the attacker-sided round. Payne just going to have to isolate those fights, which I feel like has been the biggest issue so far, is not finding those isolations. But of course, big push coming through down in mid. If you see QOR already prepped up, Zeldris with that hero rifle to try to push away.
Look at this, straight into mid. Taking so much control. Vix has already fallen here. And the trap was laid. QOR then get to spring it. Yeah, the player retires, and one at top mid, I think, was where the picks came from. And now T-Dog can just make sure no one's crept up in B main in the meantime.
Yeah, they've made the call of action to try to gather information down in B, but it doesn't necessarily serve them too well. It's shot down before they can even see too much. And of course, so many players just scattered throughout core. Information being given away towards 8 side choke point. Then again, the Viper's wall still laid out in B, although no Viper to really attest for it. So you still got to fight this down in mid, especially with Snarly.
The weapons, though, aren't good for core. The fact that they managed to manufacture those 2 picks in mid with Sheriffs is pretty absurd. Zeldris, at the very least, here is able to hold onto a Vandal. And of course, you give up mid. You don't have the weaponry to contest it. You play towards these chokes, these other lanes, away from the epicenter of the map, forcing Paint into a scenario where he has to pick tree with his operator.
Left.
Reform, though, did well to get across the gap there, and now they know that's one less player at B. They're going to hit it hard. Nerv will sit in Boathouse, and T-Dog is going to watch the close cross. Doesn't want to expose himself any more than that. In fact, tucks himself away. Paranoia comes in from Boathouse, so it's going to be good for 1. That'll have to be enough for now. Nerv wants to stay safe here until Zeldris and the rest of the cavalry arrive. Now you spring forward. Pressure on Lear. Takes a hit through the main stream, but Ziff falls to the shorty now. A beautiful retake for Core on basically a Sheriff eco.
They bring it home. And then obviously bringing things back into their pockets as well with a thrifty round in hand. A beautiful way to keep yourself in the game if you're Core. And not to mention now, obviously, a load up of that ultimate that T-Dog has been and it is going to hold on to. Though Thinking Man with 3 ultimates left on the board, I'm going to be honest, the impact that it has in comparison to T-Dog's isn't necessarily too much. Maybe we can utilize that Blade Storm for some sort of economy advantage, but at the same time, I mean, Reform's ultimate definitely the most important of all to try to gather information on the attacking side under the circumstance. Things aren't working out, but we're trying not to get into that position. We're trying not to bring that disadvantage there. So, looking to see if they can try to give themselves some sort of lead off.
I mean, reasonable to have a stoppage in play there. That is just not around that Thinking Men should be losing. They so advantaged, but they were caught off guard by that like 2-pronged hop into mid by the defenders. Now they have to say, okay, well, this is our last sort of chance for the next few rounds to buy up and make something happen. We also just gave our operator over, so that might have to change our pattern up. Zeldris will go towards Catwalk, towards Cubby if he doesn't have an operator. But now, like, it's pretty safe to say, like, he might take contact and be main or hold mid and be a pain. You're going to have to change your play style, especially when you're limited on this sort of, this anti-operator utility. You're going to have to change your advance here to deal with it.
Placing alarm bot.
22-11, by the way.
Placing swarm grenade. Placing swarm grenade.
10-7 in terms of the scoreline. But yeah, it's... Zeldris is literally just not. They're not going to sleep anytime soon when it comes down to the amount of picks that they've been getting. First-hand engagements. I mean, here not able to find anything as everybody is already down in A, but this is a beautiful way to utilize the ultimate. Try to maybe gather information, though. Actually not finding anything. And I think that's the biggest giveaway as well, just allowing the B site to know, hey, there's a possibility there.
Just trying to check wine on that last shot. But you're right. T-Dog didn't find anything. It was an important ultimate to bring it into this round here, so Core letting that one go begging without being able to glean really any information at all after having used it. And again, there's this annoying B wall, which makes it a bit uncomfortable for Zeldris to play that contact angle with the operator in B main. And once again, mid has entirely been given up. Core want to give Thinking Man enough rope to hang himself.
Scout destroyed.
Now they do set that wall up though to try to maybe gather some space, but this is huge off Zeldris. Once wall goes down, it's pretty much over.
That was the flash gone. No connection on that shot from Zeldris though. Not sure how. Pain inside a cyber cage. Just sees the head of Nerv. Is able to clean him up and it will be traded. Zeldris now gets involved with the operator. There's another player in Boathouse with him, but he may not need that kind of help. Fix from Speedway though. I think Ziff is aware of this. That's where the spike is being held right now, and so far, Scrubble Bubble is too far away to assist. What? He just crash walked that angle. Unreal.
Okay.
12 seconds left in the round, though. There's something here
left.
for sure. But Ziff could be the problem. Love the pick from Speedway just as you cross to the side and attempt to spray through the box, but Ziff gets off the angle. He might just let it get planted here.
Spike planted.
And take the straight 1 versus 1. Vix is low. That span through the boxes has taken its toll. A paltry 7 health left on the Viper.
Ready.
Wow.
And it will be a Ziff clutch. We've kind of hyped it up a couple times and said, well, Ziff's done some stuff before. That last match, of course, he ended it with a huge moment. This one here, though, less flashy, might be just as important.
think that one in general was super hard to win too. I mean, you're standing behind a very, very wall bangable spot. It's either you peek the angle or you just allow Ziv to do whatever they want. Maybe even just take a different angle on you, give you that element of surprise. So it's unfortunate, really, but a Zippo clutch being given away to
doesn't stop in the lab.
Core. Not only that, but the ultimate as well. Lockdown available to kind of profit. That scared me. The bear just popping up out of nowhere.
The jump scare.
Enemy remaining.
Yeah, this was wild, this moment here from Vix. And I like the idea from Scrubblebub with the staggered timing.
Yeah.
Ziff is, I mean, he's fought himself out of tougher situations than that, like we've said. So once again, it's the operator solo posted up on B, and the Odin this time in Cubby. This might work.
Yeah, they are going to try to actually push this through, so it seems like an aggressive take. Moving over towards main here, and they do manage to find one wall bangable through. Unfortunately for Lear, not going to work out too well, though. Paint looking to find something else, but it's T-Dog with the Odin, making it their life extremely difficult.
Still getting one, though, Paint, despite how, I mean, lopsided his chances were, at least as far as we could tell. Ziffy is still going to hold this angle, of course, and T-Dog now is back in spawn. Just want to make sure he can be where he needs to. I love that.
Spike
Such a
down.
tight angle. If not exposing any more of himself than was otherwise needed. At best, though, it's still a trade. That KJ Util now over on the A side, completely switched off. And that poison all makes it pretty hard to know what is going down here, but Vix is spotted, so Core haven't confirmed that A is still the play.
Oh, no.
Remaining.
Okay.
Fine.
The crouch peak moving up. Man, that's gotta hurt. Now it's Vix alone. Thinking, man, they were doing so well. And they did manage to take another round in to at least try to give themselves some sort of leeway there. It seems like it doesn't even matter. 34 seconds left. The spike isn't even planted. And of course, you have the Viper's
30
Spit, but a 1v3
seconds left.
situation, you need to get at least one. I mean, before you place that Viper's Spit, because in reality, it's going to be a spray through. Maybe this might be it, but it's Eldris just clearing things beautifully for Core.
Yep, that seems like something Zeldris would do. Very aggressive play there to make sure the round is closed out. 26 kills after 19 rounds. Suffice to say, he has been the highlight for Core so far in this defensive
down.
comeback. But this was beautiful from Ziff. Getting through there is important. I thought they were going to flash through that smoke there, but
Looks like I was.
yeah, eventually Vix only one to get to the site, and there's just not a lot of juice left to squeeze.
I mean, if any, right here, Zeldris is going to have such a big impact too already starting off because you're playing with your initiator. When that suppression comes through, you're able to find out, I mean, how many people might be residing here, but at least one is all they need, especially if they're taking out Vix. Maybe even then a controller down. It seems like, yep, the head peeking through and they weren't expecting the op to be there.
All of a sudden, there's the pressure on A basically dissipating. Now you can start turning your
Scout
attention
destroyed.
properly towards mid. I think
Here.
that's where Zeldris is heading here. So Lear has a very small window. Now he's been spotted, so mid basically is closed off to you now, especially with the op player posted up here towards CT with knives of all things. Nerve again looks like he's going to be the one to get busy.
Yeah, I've seen positions like these before, and if you hold it, you honestly have a pretty good chance at being able to stop any sort of push that comes through, but the smoke is helping Nerve out. Actually, no, location given away, backing themselves off. Make sure they don't lose a life here.
Patience here for Nerve. He knows he can retake Tree, especially when he's joined by his teammates, but Snarly's down. I main hold there for reforms is all well and good, but Zeldris needs to try and find a way in with these knives.
30
There's no
seconds
flank
left.
here at work for Core. Zeldris
Spike
backing up,
planted.
giving Payne a little bit of room here. There's a chance for a crossfire, but Nerve doesn't quite find the angle in time. So they're in the post plant here. Thinking about still with 3 to work with, but many of them stacked up, paying so much attention towards Tree here. The lockdown's going to be tough to fight for, but they got no choice but to throw themselves in. Unfortunately, they will be spit right back out.
Yeah, taking the lockdown. Again, big round coming through from Core, and I mean, they were holding on to that lockdown for the perfect moment, which obviously now definitely would be the time. Breaking down the economy of thinking, man, to a point where there might honestly be no return. So scattered. It is incredibly scattered, which, I mean, semi-unfortunate for this team, but again, so many ultimates left on the board to utilize themselves. It's just one of those moments where they just really haven't had the opportunity. They've been getting shut down pretty quickly.
Yeah, like I said, they had a window last round, right, to get up mid, but I think the Aldrin timing from T-Dog was very, very good. And that basically forced Lear straight on back and forced Thinkum in a funnel in through Tree, which is just They'd really like to split these sites if they possibly can, but you don't have the time to set that 8 in the round. Oh, T-Dog, you met your match. Leah punishes that close-up positioning.
Actually sitting down there, trying to find one, but then again, the pop flash moving forward, and Zeldris leaving to try to avoid any sense of being taken out. And now even then, I mean, they have some sort of backup coming through down in market, but how much can they hold with the operator alone? Still looking above, and it's Scrubblebub finding them down towards backside and the open hand.
I know exactly.
Clever to use the updraft there, especially when the Paranoia came in, but Paranoia Seekers, there's just too much to deal with. He was overwhelmed. Now Thinking Man playing with that kind of pace that we saw from QOR in the first half. That same pace that gave them those crucial 3 rounds to pivot off of. But now it's a fully held site with 5 players, an Odin and an operator. All the bells and whistles here for Thinking Men. And no choice for Corbett to try and go for it here. You can see the money. It's okay. They can work with this. Reform brought down to the side here, but this little off angle from Vix is going to be a problem now. Now the defenders are sandwiched. I think Zip is thinking about just getting out.
Enemy remains.
Still trying to surround themselves and maybe even find everybody else as well. Yeah, they're not going to get a diffuser regardless, but a nice shutdown coming through. Scrubbleblood picking up the op is definitely going to be a pretty dire situation. The thing that scares me with that is I really don't like entries with the op unless we're kind of leading QOR out to try to take some sort of picks, but it never happens. I haven't seen QOR once really try to push up towards mid, maybe like, you know, on occasion when there is an anti-eco round coming through from Thinking Man, but other than that, they were pretty patient, waiting and watching. So I'm not so sure how that situation is going to work out unless Paint wants to get semi-aggressive with the operator, but then again, I'm really up to see what's going to happen. It seems like Zeldris definitely looking like they want to get some sort of first engagement down in mid.
Seen this a couple times from QOR, right? But they sort of lose around, then they just make a pop into mid. Find a kill, not unlike that one, and set the tone for a round that starts to get them back out in front. This is getting very, very close now. And this was a big spend up for QOR to even sort of feature in this round. Only light shields here for Zeldris and Snarly respectively. Nerve manages to lose his there as he's forced away from A main now as the Viper and the Cypher start to advance.
Yeah, they at least have mid to take control over. If anything, if Pain wants to try to fight, you know, B after this clear, that would be huge. If they can manage to find maybe Ziff here. It could take away towards B.
They're all watching that mid angle though. They know they have to after they give it up. They do expect someone to try and thrust down like this, but maybe not someone as far forward as Paint has been able to get. It's slow going clearing all these angles with the operator like that, and you're liable to get caught by Zeldris, who already knew about where he had to be looking. Nice guiding light. This is awkward for T-Dog. He tries to sidestep his way across heaven, but gets caught halfway. Beautiful shots though from Snarly. What a way to shut it down. And QOR even it up once more.
Yeah, 11-11, super stressful game at that as well. It's hard. Like, I genuinely don't know who might be the one to walk away with this, but I will say, I mean, biggest thing that they can do on the side of QOR Gaming to possibly take things in, especially with the struggle that they've been reaching so far, is, again, stuff like this. Honestly, I think they did such an amazing job at trying to stop this team before they managed to get the plant down. Because once it does, Thinking Men's post-plant positioning is impeccable. They tend to never let you get near the spike, and it's almost impossible to try to get the retake in. Though T-Dog there loaded up with at least a recon bolt and at least a form of their ultimate, so not going to be able to find one, although...
Thinkmen tucked themselves away from tiles there. They knew that was going to follow up after the recon bolt at the very least, so they avoid taking any damage there. They are suppressed and still walking up in B main with the smoke here to cover market. That is going to keep Snarly out of the action for now. Now he can break up these areas into 2 with this Viper wall. Far better weapons here for QOR though. Paranoid towards CT. Here comes the Hunter's Fury. They're all lined up for this. Could be dangerous. Snarly happy to take a little bit of damage from T-Dog there as Vix gets lit and is forced to tuck to the left.
Now trying to get some sort of Odin shots through to diminish the numbers, but it doesn't seem like it's going to work out. A beautiful shot coming through from Reform, but T-Dog to try to at least revert that back into their own account.
think T-Dog's going to have to be happy with what he's gotten so far with that Odin from CT. This is forcing a very long, very circuitous repositioning of the spike.
Left.
Zeldris can hear this, though, in heaven. He knows that Reformed is snuck through, as does Snarly. Oh, dear. Well, that's the way it goes sometimes. Still have to deal with Zeldris, though, if you're Reformed. The spike, though, has made it to A main here. Zeldris is aware, but now he's going to be sandwiched between two players. Can he handle this for Shorty?
10 seconds.
Sends Reformed careening backwards, but Leah dives in with the frenzy. Fortunately, the cavalry arrives. T-Dog gets there. The spike dropped loose, and that's the round.
Match point.
And I like that, the redirect over towards, the A site, despite having so much control over B. But, I mean, Core, they're smarter than that. They figured it out. T-Dog definitely looking like a huge threat with the Odin in hand as well. And now you have the match point. So that's the biggest thing, not letting that go. And we've been seeing a repetition of the back and forth happening, throughout the game in general. This is where the difficulty lies. Can Core continue this and just take it away now? Or are we going to have to see, that OT really come through?
They're at full strength, though, and it's still a jumbled buy coming out for Thinking Men to stay in the game. Interesting. They are very adamant about shoving down mid here. This is obviously not around that core. Go for one of those defensive pops in that direction. They're clear mid. Okay, they've done this before. There's no one in tree. Core have left this area mostly uncontested. This could be huge.
Oh, and then waiting. This is beautiful. T-Dog with a nice way of keeping the site. But then again, Thinking Men, they just find themselves down towards the back of site with Paint alone. I mean, making their own diversion, but a 3v3 situation, it's not looking bad for anyone. I think the biggest difficulty is getting the retake in with the op, but again, suppression comes through and no util utilized. This is the perfect moment to push.
The operator's up there too. You spot a Zeldris out, he has that weapon. Some haphazard movement gets him onto the Jenny. Not an odd angle, but he finds Scrubble Bub. That's big. Paint, though, able to give good account of himself in hell, but Zip's going to be there for the follow-up, and they expect someone A main, but Vix will have to announce himself by breaking through the door in order to clutch this in a 1v2. Zeldris thinks about coming from an off angle, and the shorty of Vix is bested by the Jet player. 13-11 for Core. That's a marathon of a map.
It genuinely was. And honestly, it could have very well went any other way. I think if that Molly had hit, it would have 100% gone into that OT, and I genuinely think there would have been an opportunity to take things down for Thinking Men. Again, it was just pressured, it was rushed, and it's moments like those that really do take you that extra mile, but a huge congratulations to Core for taking that first map. It was impressive, but it was long.
Yeah, it takes a lot to come back from such a huge deficit in the first half, so Core will give them a chance to catch their breath, and we'll be back on the other side of the break to chat quickly about map 1, and then set our attention forward to our second in this series.